Hello! Thank you for clicking on this video, and of course, thank you as always for your interest in Precise FP. Today we are going to be going over PDF templates. We're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into PDFs as well. We'll try to start with kind of the most straightforward uses of PDF templates, kind of custodial paperwork, maybe internal agreements. And then we will focus on uploading and creating your own custom PDFs, as well as the information from the Precise FP dataset that is eligible to pre-fill PDFs. Okay, quite a bit to go through today, but before we do, the biggest thing I want to touch on is going to be an overview of PDF templates, what they are, why we have them in the software, and really kind of what we recommend for their usage. So I have clicked on the templates domain here on the left-hand side, and I am now seeing three results. I would say most people that kind of hear of Precise FP have usually heard of our form templates, which are our data gatherers. You know, we can upload, download documents, watch a video, link to a certain website, for example, gather e-signatures, review and update information. These guys are data gatherers, right? And they can also be e-signed is like a straightforward way to explain them. Your PDF template, so what we're touching on today, I refer to as signature machines. These PDFs can be mapped to pre-fill with information from the Precise FP profile. But the biggest thing that we want to keep in mind is once we review the document as the Precise FP user, we make sure it's all filled in the way we want it to be, check our boxes. We will actually only send the PDF template for e-signature. Okay, so if we do want to gather data, we would want to use a form template. PDF wise, the client, won't be able to check any boxes or anything. They will only be able to apply an e-signature. So yeah, we really don't want to request anything from the recipient with these guys. PDF templates can be integrated with DocuSign if you have your own DocuSign credentials. And then they can also use Precise FP's own e-signature within the platform. If you are working with a custodian, we do always recommend double checking with them whether they will accept Precise FP's e-signature, or for example, like Charles Schwab, whether there is a requirement for that DocuSign integration. All right. So the PDF library is going to consist of all of the pre-built and pre-mapped custodial paperwork that Precise FP has for you to use. So if it is in the PDF library, it is something that we work with the custodian to keep the template up to date. We can see in the PDF library, if we click on a PDF, we can see when it was published, maybe the latest update and show the newest version of that template. And then if we did want to send this to someone, the mapping is done for you. So client name field knows that it is client name field, for example. And we'll go a little bit more in depth with that. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense here once we've kind of gone into PDF templates. But I'm going to go ahead and click on a record within our pre-built PDF library so we can kind of look at those custodial PDFs, and then we'll move on to custom PDFs and your options there. Okay. So the PDFs that we keep in the PDF library, you can, once you click on one other than the information about the template, you can preview to see kind of what's in there, what it all entails, or you can install a copy of the PDF template. If you have installed a version of this PDF and it's under My Templates, it is going to ask you if you want to replace your existing version or not. I am going to say yes, maybe this PDF was just recently updated and now I just want to have the most up-to-date version from the library. Okay. So once we install a PDF from the library, it is going to bring a copy of that template under My Templates here. My templates right now, it's just showing us what we've just installed, but my templates will house all of the PDFs you've installed from our library, as well as any PDFs you've created custom as well. Right? When we click on the template in My Templates, we are going to see a couple options with that template in terms of editing. We'll have the option to open up the template editor and map further fields. We have the option to preview once more, and then we have the option to share with other users. Maybe we made a couple tweaks to this template and we want everyone on our subscription or only certain teams on our subscription to also have access to this PDF. We can do that as well. And then of course you have the option to delete the template should you choose you don't want it under My Templates anymore. Okay. Let's go ahead, let's click on the map option and open up that template editor. Okay. So with pre-built custodial templates, you're going to see all of the fields have been laid down. There may be some kind of text in some of these fields already. That's usually a good indicator of the field type. So for example, a field that starts with this capital A is going to be a text field, whereas a field with a phone icon at the beginning is going to be a phone field. So you have different field types, just kind of pre-filling with different types of information. And we can double click on each of these pre-built fields to see how they're set up and see if we'd like to, if we want to change maybe the default value, what it's pre-filling with, or even specifically what it's pre-filling with from the PreciseFP profile. I double clicked on this firm name field and you see these bracket and percentage symbols for macro. So that is something built into the software where we put that text field down and then said this needs to pre-fill with the company name. So rather than changing the company name each time accordingly, when we are sending this PDF to someone, the company name macro is going to pull the company name from your team's domain. Okay? So macros are really helpful for information that pre-fills maybe with the same data each time. Very similarly, if you did want to maybe have a default value, if something is just kind of always the same, like team one, for example, as the service team, that is also something that you can set so that it pre-fills no matter who we're sending this PDF to, it's going to pre-fill with that value so that you don't have to type it in every time. Right? So you have that option with these templates. You've got the macros. You can use a default value if you want to. And then the other thing you can customize on these custodial templates is going to be your connection. Okay? So where this might be helpful is in areas where the pre-built template will usually have it picked out for you. So for example, if we're looking at the account holder name, this connection is to the first name, which makes sense because this field is specifically for first. If we double click on the middle name field, we'll see it's connected to the person in the profile's middle name. And then similarly, last name, same thing. It's connected to the last name in the profile. Okay. Another thing that's been kind of set up for you already is your field groups and then your field names. When we're mapping our own custom templates, these become a lot more important. But the biggest thing I like to touch on with field group and name is the group is going to be the person or the participant whose information is going to pre-fill these fields. And then your field name is really just, hey, if I'm picking this option from a drop-down list, I just want to know while looking at the field name what exactly I'm pulling in. So first name, full name, just as descriptive as you would like it to be, right? So you can change these connections if for whatever reason there's full name in the profile. So I could say maybe instead of first name, I just want the first name field to pre-fill with the entire full name. We can change that connection. That's a-okay. If we want to change it back to first name, that was a silly choice. We don't want the full name in the first name field. We can just make that connection change here and save it. Okay. So with custodial PDFs, I like hopping through, just kind of seeing what can default, checking those connections, just kind of making sure that if we're pre-filling from the profile in Precise FP, that we are pre-filling from an area that makes sense, right? And those are going to be kind of your biggest customization options with these pre-built custodial forms. If we do want to send somebody a custom PDF template, we can do so as well. That process just involves uploading the PDF, mapping it so it knows what to pre-fill with, and then I would say test it. But then once it is tested, sending it out for e-signature for your clients and prospects as well. So let's work on maybe uploading a custom PDF together. So we actually won't do this in the PDF library. We're going to hop into My Templates, and then we are going to click the green plus button in the upper right-hand corner. Okay. We can select a thumbnail if we want to. We do want to select a PDF document to use here. So let's go ahead and select that here. I've got a little Word document that I just exported to PDF for the purposes of showing how information pre-fills. So let's call this our mapping 101, for example. So we're giving it a title. We can give it a description. Your description and your thumbnail are internal only. So client prospect does not see the description or the thumbnail. So just a heads up, if you need to make a note to yourself in the description about this PDF, hey, use it for, households that do or don't have spouses, for example. That's internal information. And then your category, you can choose from the existing ones, which are really just custodians, or you can create a new category and, kind of call it whatever you want it to. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click create. You don't have to have a thumbnail if you don't upload one. Remember, internal only. Precise FP just kind of fills it in for you. Okay. Now, once created, we can hop into the template editor. We can preview our template, which we're not going to see much right now. We just haven't done anything. We can click edit to change that overarching information about that PDF template. So if we change our minds about any of that stuff, we can do that. We can also now copy these PDF templates because it is custom. So if we want to maybe copy it and then map it differently for whatever reason, we can have two different versions. And of course, we can still share with other users on our subscription or delete this template as well. Okay. But we want this to pre-fill with information from our Precise FP profiles. So in order to do that, we need to map it. Because this is a custom PDF, when we click on it, we will click on Customize instead of Map. But same thing, we're still being brought into the template editor for this PDF template. Now, when you're uploading your own PDF, you may likely have fillable fields that come in they were already on the PDF. The system will try, when you upload a PDF, it will try to pick up those fillable fields. Sometimes it cannot, sometimes it can. Either way, we're still going to go through each field and make sure it is mapped appropriately. So either way, we're still manually going through each field, whether we're creating it or just clicking on it, checking it, and setting it up appropriately. So if you upload your PDF and the fields don't come through, honestly, it's not going to hurt you too terribly much. We can still get it mapped. Okay. And the reason we sometimes don't see those fields come in is just as with any sort of PDF uploader where we're creating it as a document, it does go through a bit of a compression process when we upload the PDF. So sometimes the fillable fields come in and sometimes they don't. Okay. So I like to start personally with a fresh PDF template so that I know when I'm laying a field down, I'm using the field that I want to use. Okay. So we've uploaded our new PDF template, and now we want to start telling the PDF where to pre-fill with information and then where everyone is going to e-sign. Because remember, our PDFs are e-signature machines. Okay. So if we click to add a new field, which let me do that again here, I'm clicking this plus button in the upper right-hand corner. We're going to see our options for fields to pre-fill with information from the Precise FP profile. These are going to be those input fields. And then we also have our e-signature fields. Okay, so this would be anything to do with an e-signature. We're just going to use these guys towards the bottom. Okay, so let's start with pre-filling names. Um, with names, we're going to use a text field. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then right away, this field is going to ask for what feels like a lot of information. Remember that field group and name, since this is our Scratch PDF, we don't have them pre-made for us. Our PreciseFP template designer does that for the PDF library. So here we've become our own PDF template designer. So for our field group, this field is pre-filling with client name. I just like to use the group of client, for example. So we're just telling the PDF when I click on a profile to engage with this PDF template, whoever I select as the client, their information should pre-fill in the fields that have a field group of client. Right? I'm a bit of a visual learner, so if that did not make sense, that's a-okay. We're going to see it here in a second. When we actually engage a client or prospect with the PDF to test our mappings, I think that's when it really shows you kind of what those field groups do exactly. Okay? But otherwise, field group is just the person or the participant whose information is going in that field. Okay? So for client name, client is my field group. Your field name here on the right can really be anything. It's just a matter of if you are selecting this field from a pick list, we want the field name to just tell you what it is, okay? So if I want maybe client full name, I might just call this field full name, right? And then your connection here, this is going to be the place in the PreciseFP profile, also referred to as the data set, where we are pulling the known information. Um, I've specifically put client name and co-client name on my PDF template, so I don't personally want to grab like first name, middle name, last name separately. I'm going to instead use the full name calculation that's just built into the PreciseFP data set. So in your profiles already, it will put together the client's name. So first name, middle name, and last name for you. Right? So full name is in there. I'm just going to click to create that connection. And I will just note here, this person.full name as part of the field. That's a very, very important piece of information for your PDF templates. Only information that starts with person dot is able to pre-fill a PDF template. Hi. The other word that you might see here instead of person is going to be household. So if it does say it is household rather than person, it cannot pre-fill a PDF template. Just a heads up there. We'll talk through what can pre-fill and also some workarounds for data that you may want to pre-fill a PDF template. But for right now, just keep in mind we're seeing person dot, and that is exactly what we want to see here. Right? So we have our full name field connected, and then we get to choose whether full name is mandatory, and then we can choose whether it's mandatory with a certain field filled in, or if a certain field is not filled in, we can put that field name there as well. Remember with mandatory input fields, so where stuff is being pre-filled, the recipient, it's not mandatory for them. It's mandatory for ourselves as the PreciseFP user when we are pre-filling that PDF and before we send to e-signature. So these mandatory fields would be if you pre-fill that PDF and try to send for e-signature, but a mandatory field has not been filled in, it will give you a little pop-up and ask you if you'd like to proceed with sending, even though you're missing that mandatory field. Okay. Aside from that mandatory option, we also have a character limit for the text field. If we scooch to the bottom of these options, you can also enable multi-line options for text field. So if you are going to have, maybe a longer response like a paragraph, you might want to enable that multi-line option so it can show more than one line on that text field when it pre-fills. Okay? But name's usually just kind of one line, so we'll leave it there. Character spacing can be just default plain text or exactly the same, just regardless. We can change the font size, and within each field, we can also choose the alignment. I'm just partial to left align, so we'll just use that. Okay. So we've got client full name, and the connection is to person.fullname in the PreciseFP profile. Let's go ahead and create that. It's going to put the field on the form, and then we just get to drag and drop it where we'd like to place it on our PDF. Okay? We can also do the exact same with our co-client. So I can lay down a text field. I'm still going to call the field name, full name, and my connection is going to be still just a person.full name. Okay? However, my field group is going to be different because this is a different person or participant on the engagement. So rather than selecting client from this drop down, I am going to click create a new group. And then I want to create a field group for all of the fields that will belong to the co-client, the spouse, the secondary contact, whoever kind of that second person is that needs to maybe sign this form as well. For me, I like to use the client and co-client terms from PreciseFP, but as we saw in those custodial forms, it might be like account owner one, it might be like primary contact, anything like that. Just as long as you are using your same field groups for your PDFs, your information is still going to pre-fill appropriately. Okay. So I created a field group of co-client. I'm going to leave everything else exactly the same. It's just that this is pre-filling with whoever I choose as the co-client. It's going to pre-fill with their full name. Okay. So I'm just going to lay that field down here. And then so we can test this, without putting everything on the PDF and then testing it, I like to add just a couple fields and then run a test to make sure everything's pre-filling appropriately. We hop into a test, let's also go ahead and lay down a client and co-client signature field, just so we can actually test this PDF engagement. Because remember, they're for e-signature, so they're really only going to want to send out to somebody if they have a signature field on them. Okay. So when I'm creating, oh man, I do this without thinking. When I'm creating an e-signature field, I'm still going to select a new field. And then I'm going to use e-signature for anything that is specifically going to be associated with the act of applying that e-signature to the PDF. So in this case, client signature, I would say that's just going to be a signature field. This is the client's signature. So let's pick the field group of client. And then the field name, we'll shorten it, we'll just call it SIG, but maybe one. So if there's multiple signature fields for the client on a PDF, you might do SIG1, SIG2, SIG3, kind of so on and so forth, just so you can tell the difference between them in a list, remember? We can choose whether it's mandatory or not. This is actually mandatory for the recipient this time because it's their responsibility to e-sign at this point. So we can make that mandatory if we want to. And then we can also choose the signing method, whether that's typing and drawing or just one of those options specifically. Okay. Let's go ahead and lay down our signature field. And within the PDF template editor, when we lay down an e-signature field, it's always going to show John Doe's name in there, just so you know it's an e-signature field. When we do actually send this to someone, they haven't e-signed yet, there's not anything in that field whatsoever. Right? Just kind of reminding you what this is for. Let's go ahead and add another e-signature field for our co-client. So we select that co-client field group. If there's more than one signature for the co-client, maybe we also call this SIG1. We choose whether it's mandatory or not, and then our signing method, and then we hit create. Okay, gets to be a little repetitive once you start kind of mapping multiple fields in one sitting. But this is why I like to stop and test early on. So if I have like 1 out of 2 fields broken, I just go look and fix that one field. Whereas if I have up to like 50 fields I'm mapping on my PDF, I probably don't want to like test them all in one go and then go back and fix them all too. So this is just how I prefer to do it. If you want to map everything, that's fine too. But from here, just to make sure I've done everything correctly, I'm checking my work. I'm going to hop out of the template editor. So everything we've done so far is auto saved. We don't have to click save anywhere. I'm just going to hop into accounts, and then I'm going to click on a test account I have in here for myself. So just completely filled with pretend information. I can click on engage and then select with a PDF. And then I'm going to click on that PDF template that we were just working in. So our mapping 101 option. With these PDF engagements, you can actually do up to 5 templates in one engagement. But we're just working with mapping 101 for the case of simplicity. So when we hit continue, this is where field groups, I think, kind of start to click. We have a field group for client and we have a field group for co-client on our PDF. We've chosen our profile that we want to engage with the PDF. So now in our client dropdown, it's saying from the people on this profile, who is your client? That's going to be me in this instance. For my co-client, maybe it's my pretend co-client here. So I'm just choosing people from my profile to pre-fill this PDF. Okay? So we'll hit continue. And now it's going to say, okay, of the e-signatures that you have on your PDF, these are the people who need to sign for the roles you selected. And then it's pre-filling with their information. Okay. So from here, we can choose whether we want to capture that e-signature or not. If we choose no, usually the functionality is we've pre-filled a PDF, maybe we want to download it and get some sort of wet signature, or we'd like to maybe upload it to an outside e-signature software instead. Okay, so you do have those options. If you do yes for e-signature, you can choose between PreciseFP and then the DocuSign integration. Um, you can also choose the authentication method. So kind of the method of authentication that the recipient, whether that's the client or the co-client, has to go through before they can securely apply their e-signature. So they just verify their identity. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say no on capturing e-signatures because I'm not testing those e-signatures. I really just want to see how the data pre-filled on my PDF. And we've checked our work immediately. So we can see my full name pre-filled and then my co-client's name pre-filled. If we scroll down to signatures, this is perfect. We don't want to see anything on signatures right now because we as the PreciseFP user don't have any actions to take for those signatures right now. So this is where part of the engagement process is, as you can see, we have the ability to edit. So maybe we want to correct a middle initial, for example, we can do so right on the PDF template. But when we do click finish and we close out of our preview, this is where we would say if we allowed for e-signature, we could hit to send for e-signature. Or if we haven't sent yet and we just want to hop in and make some more changes, we can do so as well by clicking edit documents. Okay. Since we are kind of touching on the engagement process as well with PDF templates, with the e-signature, if you do have more than one participant on your e-signature that you are gathering prior to sending for e-signature. So once I click this button, it's all done. I cannot do this anymore. You do have the option to open up the signers and then edit your routing order. So lowest is going to be kind of like highest priority. And then you can also remember prior to sending correct contact information for each signer as well. Okay. But once we hit send, if somebody were to say, actually, I want to pre-fill my middle initial is M instead of L. Can you make that correction and I'll sign that corrected form? Absolutely. We would come into our engagements domain, check a box next to the engagement we want to send out again, And we're just going to make a duplicate of that engagement. It's going to put us right back in our, we're pre-filling, but we haven't sent anything out to anybody yet stage. And from here, we can make our corrections and then send that duplicate out for e-signature. Okay. Kind of talking through the engagement process there, just as we test that our full names are pre-filling appropriately. Let's go ahead and hop back into my PDF templates. I'm going to click on my Mapping 101 option again and then click Customize. All right. Since a lot of these are a little bit repetitive, let's go ahead and map company name, and advisor signature. We'll add printed names and then we'll save checkboxes for last. Just because with those, I think it's a little helpful to go into the data set and then we can talk about some other options with PDF mapping that you have in the data set as well. Hi. So for company name, I'm going to add a new field. I'm going to use a text field. And then for my field group, I personally like to just create a new group called like advisor, for example. So the fields that kind of are more internal, they need to pre-fill with like myself or my supervisor's information, and then it's going to kind of an outside contact for e-signature. Right. So once again, we can just maybe instead of SIG1, the advisor signs once, so we just call it signature. We would not use a connection for this because nowhere in the pre-built Precise FP dataset is there a drop down for advisor name. However, there is a macro. So if we did want to use the macro for this option, we could. I apologize. I'm looking at the macro. So we can absolutely use the advisor name macro. That's just going to pull in your first and last name from settings profile in Precise FP. You could also set up a custom signer as part of your engagement process, but here I won't do a connection. I'm just going to use advisor name. And then I'm silly. I started setting up a signature field, which I don't want to do. Let's go ahead and just call this advisor name. Okay. So we can create that, and that's going to pre-fill with company, oh my gosh, advisor name. I am all over the place now. So we just use the advisor name macro. That's going to pre-fill advisor's name, not company name. However, if we did want to use company name, that's also an option. One more new field this time. Let's actually do the company name, right? I'm still going to use the advisor field group just to keep everything organized, but this is going to be the company name field. No connection. I'm just going to grab the macro of company name. Another option you can do here is my little kind of pretend company name is Minor Family Financial. So if it does need to pre-fill with the same exact company name each time, we might go ahead and say, you know what, we're not using a macro. Let's just type in Minor Family Financial. And we can do that as well. That'll just always fill that a specific phrase in this space. So either way, you can have that name pre-fill. You can have the name of the user who's creating the engagement pre-fill. And then if we add another field this time, let's add a signature field. And we are still going to set it up as advisor. And now let's use the signature field name. Okay. Go ahead and create that and then just lay that down here. Okay. All right. So we've created our e-signature fields. We can also lay down a client printed name. And I would say this is different from the client name that's pre-filling from the profile. Client printed name, when we're picking a field, this is where I would probably say let's use the signer name field because it's actually going to stamp the printed signer name directly in that space once the e-signature is applied. So this is where your field groups become incredibly helpful again, because we can say this is the client, let's say printed name. We can hit create, And then note this field is yellow because it's associated with e-signature instead of blue, like one of our fields that just pre-fills. So when we're creating an engagement, yellow fields, you don't have to do anything with those. They say John Doe in them because they know whose name to put in there when somebody e-signs, right? So very similarly, we can add a signature field. We could call it the co-client, and then we could say this is their printed name. Okay. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Don't do what I just did. Add a signer name field, not a signature field. Field group of co-client, and then we call this one our printed name. Okay. We can create that as well. Put that down there. And really remember your field groups are what tell the signature field you need to put the same name as the person who has just signed in this field. So it knows the co-client's name to pre-fill here as well. And then we don't really have a space for it on my little test PDF here. But for example, if we wanted to add like an initials field or a specific signed date, have that also stamp with the time and date of when that signature was applied. That's another field type that you can set up using your field group. You can say time, date for the field name, for example. You choose how the time and date is displayed. So lots of different options to choose from there. But then we could just go ahead and create that. And now we know if we just maybe put this right below our e-signature, we can see it's going to also stamp that time and date once the client e-signs. And we can do the same thing for our co-client. Like I said, it starts to get a little repetitive, but I think this is great practice for just kind of getting used to mapping a PDF template. So let's go ahead and lay that down there. And then I'm just going to stretch this one a tiny bit. Right. So now we have our PDF set up. Everything is mapped. Our e-signature fields are good to go. And then our information fields, so like our name, company name, those are ready to pre-fill as well. We can run a test on these, but before we do so, I do want to tackle our checkboxes. Okay. So checkboxes are just a little bit more involved than your, just pre-fill with a name here or sign here field. So we may have to hop into your data set to make sure we're mapping the checkboxes appropriately. But the very first thing that we want to keep in mind with a checkbox like this is that if it is custom, we would need to create it in our data set. So let's go ahead and do that together. I'm going to navigate to Settings Dataset. Remember, this is accessible by the administrator of your subscription only. They can give you access to it, or they can make these updates on your behalf. Just remember, everything here in the data set affects all of the users on your same subscription, okay? So in the data set, maybe I want to create a like question for that the work together or don't work together options. Those are the two options that we had on that PDF template. So let's go ahead, we could create a new group. Maybe we just click on an existing element here on my client, co-client, kind of first page of their details. And I want to lay down a multiple option field. That's precise FP speak for a checkbox, okay? So we'll select multiple option. We're going to give it a title, so that can be kind of whatever you want it to be. I'll just go with like work together question mark, because we know our options are get along and work together or basically fight all the time. We can put in a description if we want to, but I would note that we are adding a mapping to a client co-client page in the data set. Remember, you have individual and you have household pages. So anytime we add something to, I'm going to close out of this. Anytime we add something to a client, co-client enabled page in the data set, so these guys with the driver's license icons, not the ones with the houses next to the titles, Anything we add to this page is going to have that ideal person classification, right? We just clicked on a text field, which we don't want. So we'll go back and add that multiple option. Let's say work together, question mark. And you'll notice because we just added something to the client co-client page, the classification is person. Remember, that's the type of data that can pre-fill your PDFs. Okay. Very similarly, so we can create the mapping, we want to also give a field name so that we can pick this field from a dropdown. So if we're choosing person dot something as a connection on our PDF template, what do we want this to be? Let's say person dot work together, for example. Hi. And then for my values, we're going to have get along, and we are going to add another option and say, let's just say fight. Keep it short and simple. I hope this isn't actually something you're pre-filling on your PDFs. So we have our two options. Something that I like to do when we are working with a drop-down or a multiple option element is set my own values so they're a little bit easier to remember as well. So if you are not familiar with it, remember your drop downs and your multiple option elements have your advanced editor. So we can actually open that up and set hidden values for those selections. So maybe get along, instead of this text value of get along, we just put a 1. And maybe instead of fight, we use a 2. So we know get along is 1, fight is 2. If this doesn't make sense right now, that's a-okay. It's going to make sense when we hop back into our PDF template. Okay. But big thing to keep in mind is get along 1, fight 2. Okay. We do not allow multiple selections for this option. That is why it's referred to as a multiple selection field here, like in the template and in the data set, is because you can have it be select as many as apply. Within a PDF, we kind of want to have, this or that, or maybe a couple options, and, 1 or 2 or 3 are being selected. Okay. So I'm going to create this field, and then what I'm going to do is we are now going to map those checkboxes. Okay. So we're going to hop back into our PDF template, and I'm remembering my 1 and 2, 1 and 2. I am going to customize my template once more, and then we are going to lay down our checkbox fields. So our checkbox that we just created has 2 options. We have our 2 options right here. We are going to map those 2 options separately. Okay, so we'll do one, then we'll do the other. All right, so we're going to add a checkbox field. I put this information on a co-client page, so technically we could add these questions again on the right-hand side of the page if we wanted to, and get a separate response from the co-client. I'm just kind of looking for one response regardless. So I am going to give this a field group of client. And then let's say this is our, just stick with what we had in the data set, our work together field. Okay. You can set a default value if, maybe we're always going to, we're always going to agree to work together. So we always want to check that first box, for example. But otherwise, I'll leave it unchecked. And then we are going to pick that connection. This is where we will search for our work together field. And this is where you may see 2 results. So remember how we just created that 1 and 2 value? We're actually going to use that value option. And the reason we're doing that is so we can say only check the work together box when this field in the profile is in a value of 1, rather than, get along or fight. If you're familiar with form templates, usually at this point, you might see an option to say show allowed values. So you can see a list of values available from your connection element. That's not live in PDFs right now, but it will be here very shortly in the future. So if you're watching this video in the future and you see that allowed values, you can click on that to to confirm 1 is my value for work together, 2 is my value for let's fight. Okay? So I'm using 1 for work together, and you can see here it actually changed my field name a little bit. That's okay too, right? We're going to hit create, and then we're going to move our checkbox over to that location. Okay? So we have our work together option 1, and let's create work together option 2, which is to not work together. So checkbox, and then I'll use the client again. We'll still call this work together. Remember, when we use our next option, it's gonna put 2 after that as well. Okay, so we don't do that. We just call it work together. We're gonna select that connection again of our work together value, remember, and then check only when the value is, in this case, 2. So we're not getting along. So we can go ahead and create that one as well, and we can lay it down here on our template. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do another test. So we are going to go into our test account and let's make a selection in that checkbox. And then let's engage our test account with that PDF. So I'm going to click on my pretend self here. Let's go into profile. I'm going to click edit at the top, and then we want to find that field we just created, which is going to be right here at the bottom. I just created at the bottom of the client details page. So maybe these guys are just copacetic. We're all good. So we're deciding to get along this time. I've just input that in their profile, but you could also gather this data. Maybe you put this question on a form template. You gather it and save it to the profile that way as well. So there's different ways to kind of get that information from your client or prospect. But now if we engage this account with a PDF and we choose our PDF template, no, that's not what I want to do. Engage with a PDF. All right, let's try again. Let's go to all accounts. And we will click on Darby, engage with a PDF, and we'll choose up to 5 templates here. Okay, so let's use the mapping template again, and let's hit continue. I'm going to select myself as the client and my co-client test as co-client, and let's hit continue. And you can see we've actually added an e-signature field, so now we have another option. So remember, advisor name's not pre-filling from an actual profile, it's just a macro. So from here, if we were sending this out to gather an e-signature for our advisor as well, this might be an instance where in the dropdown you're going to see the other contacts from the profile you're engaging for the advisor purposes. Doesn't really make sense to, put a child in there as the advisor signer. Your secondary contacts will also show. So if you create a custom secondary contact and apply it to a profile, you can also choose them as a signer, or even as someone whose information can pre-fill your PDF. And then you will have the option under other contacts to choose yourself, to choose any other user on your subscription, or to set up a custom signer where you truly just put in their information and send out. Okay. But we're not going to do, no, we won't do e-signature this time. Let's just go ahead and say no. We just want to make sure everything's pre-filling appropriately. So let's go ahead and hit continue. Wow. Yay. Okay. So our full names are pre-filling. Our company name has pre-filled. The advisor name pre-filled as well. And then we can also see, remember those e-signature fields, they're going to look totally blank right now because we're not gathering e-signature. If we were, we would see these still be their kind of yellow selves here in our preview. But we can go ahead and hit finish. I really like the way that all pre-filled. So now we know that the PDF is going to pre-fill appropriately. If we wanted to, we could run through a test of the engagement. So if we did want to go through the actual e-sign process, we could say engage with a PDF, choose that template all over again, hit continue, select our participants here. We could have also made a duplicate. I'm just making things hard on myself. And then we can say, yes, let's capture e-signatures. We're going to use Precise FP rather than integrating with our DocuSign credentials. And let's authenticate with an email sent to the signer. That's a PIN, they enter it, and then they can apply their e-signature. We can hit continue. And if we choose to send out for e-signature this time, the information's still going to pre-fill. Our signature fields are going to look like they're actually doing something this time because they would be if we sent this out for e-signature. And we can close out of our preview. We can edit any sort of emails that the recipients are going to receive if we engage them with the template. We can also, prior to clicking the send button, we can click view signers and set a routing order with the lowest number being prioritized first. So if I want to make sure maybe I get the first email to sign as the client, I can set myself as number one. And remember, before sending for e-signature, we can also edit contact information. So if that information is wrong for whatever reason, we can change it right here before clicking send. Okay? But the biggest thing to keep in mind is once we do click send for e-signature, we cannot edit our documents any further. We would want to create a duplicate, edit our duplicate, and then send that out for e-signature instead. Okay. And then prior to sending as well, you'll have that option to edit your documents. So you can always come in here as a Precise FP user and maybe say, oh, I want, my middle initial as the advisor in here. I'd probably say let's use a default value if we want it exactly that way, but everybody's different. Maybe we check both boxes. Maybe we change the selection that came in from the profile. We can do any of that. That's part of this preview, but just remember once we send out for e-signature, we can't change the information on that PDF any longer. Okay. All right, so that was an overview of PDF templates, how to create your own, how to kind of work with custodial templates, specifically how to map a custom template, check it, make sure it's pre-filling for information. Before we sign off for the day, the last thing I want to touch on is actually back in the data set. There is slightly a bit more in terms of the information in your data set or your Precise FP profiles that can pre-fill templates, those PDF templates. So if you recall, I've been kind of touching on the fact that on our individual pages of the data set, so our pages that allow duplication for the co-client's responses as well, any information that we put on here is going to be classified as a person. And that's perfect. Any information we put on a client, co-client page, remember our PDFs are going to look at that and they're going to say, this data belongs to the client, this data belongs to the co-client. What we had touched on was the fact that household information cannot pre-fill PDF templates. That is truly just kind of honestly a limitation of the software right now, in that something does have to be classified as a person to appear as an option to pre-fill an engagement. So if you're familiar with Precise FP's data gathering, its data set, even PDF templates, you might already know, hey, there's household information that I know darn well can pre-fill PDF templates, right? Family members, children, other family members, we saw when we were testing my PDFs, you can choose those as people to pre-fill PDF engagements as well. How did that happen? That is not by accident. You have a way to kind of trick your profile or your data set into understanding that even though a group of information is on a household page, we can trick those PDFs into understanding that this information can still be used to pre-fill a PDF template. Okay, so how does that happen? It will happen on a household page, specifically if the group is Add More enabled. So for children, for other family members, these groups are Add More enabled because a household may have more than one child or more than one family member in their household, right? We can verify a group is Add More enabled under group details. We just want to make sure that the Add More button is enabled. And what this is going to do is this is going to give your household group classification of person, right? This can come really handy if we're looking at maybe pre-filling a PDF template with information about a specific account. We can, similarly to how children and other family members' information can pre-fill a PDF engagement. If you would like to, you can, in your data set, classify your accounts in such a way that they would appear as quote unquote persons to pre-fill your PDF template. So the biggest thing again is in order to do this, we would pick the group on the household page that we want to kind of turn into a person, so to speak. Remember, make sure it is Add More enabled. That is what allows for the person classification here in the beginning of your classification in the data set. And then your field name, you have a couple different options, but it does have to be one of these guys in order for the PDF template to then show these options when you are engaging an account with a PreciseFP PDF template. Okay. So your field names that you can use to turn this group into a quote unquote person for pre-filling PDFs are going to be name, full name, no spaces, first name, no spaces, or last name. Okay, no spaces again. I like to use, if we're talking about accounts, honestly, I like to just use name, just since, an account really won't have like a last name, full name. It's just kind of, this is what we refer to it as, right? So let's go ahead and save that change. So we have just given our group, our 401k group, it's Add More enabled. So it's a person. And then we just gave it a classification of name. Remember, you could still use full name, first name, or last name, just no spaces between those terms, okay? So let's go ahead and save those changes. So now our 401k group, if we engage a profile with our PDF template, and we have a 401k that has a name in our profile, that 401k should appear as an option for pre-filling our PDF engagement. Okay. So I actually already have a handful of 401k accounts, just pretend in my little profile. Um, I like to take note of the names so they are different. We can discern between them. So if I engage my test account here with a PDF template, I would expect to see 3 401ks now appear as participants to choose in that dropdown. Okay. So let's go ahead and try that out here. I just clicked engage with a PDF. I'm going to click on mapping 101 and I'm going to hit continue. Okay, we didn't add any new field groups to our template, so we're still just going to see client and co-client, but let's just go ahead and click here. Okay, perfect. So we're going to see all 3 401k accounts pre-fill as options to pre-fill that engagement as well. So hear me out. Maybe on our PDF template, we have a 401k group. We want to pull information about a 401k into some specific fields on the PDF template. Well, guess what? The 401k is now technically a person to PreciseFP. So we can go ahead and give it its own field group. We can make a connection. This is where the naming becomes a little confusing because we are just going to pick name. That's just what we call the 401k name. Um, with this, you may want to say like, name and then give it a slightly different title, just so we can pick it as the connection without just kind of having to try to remember which one's which. Right? So maybe we would pick 401k name, but the classification is still person name. That's okay. Okay, so we go ahead and create that connection, and now we have what should be our pre-fill with 401k information field. And this is set to pre-fill with the 401k's name. We could do a mapping for, the value, the owner, those sorts of things too. But really, we just want to kind of demonstrate that capability to kind of create custom groups of information in the data set that you can pre-fill PDFs with. So let's go pick on myself again. Let's engage us with a PDF. And then we'll select mapping 101. And now we have a 401k field group. I can say, hey, maybe we're gonna, sign off on 401k number 1234. So that's the account we're referencing for co-client and then for myself. We hit continue, whether we want those e-signatures or not. Let's just make sure everything pre-filled appropriately. And it did. We've got our 401k name down here as well. So remember, we chose no e-signature, so the signature fields just kind of disappear. If we were doing e-signature, this would be our opportunity to come in, just make sure everything's accurate, change a checkbox or anything. Just keep pre-filling until we're all done. And then from there, we could say, let's send that out for e-signature. Okay. So that is a nice little trick that you have in your data set if you do want to make kind of non-person information still eligible to pre-fill an engagement. Just remember with that, we made the 401k available in that dropdown, but then we also on our PDF mapped a location for that 401k information to pre-fill. Right? Um, this has been an overview of PDF templates, both kind of high level and then as in depth as we can kind of get with these guys in Precise FP. This is, I would say, pretty advanced Precise FP knowledge. So if you're still kind of uncertain or unclear about what we've discussed today, maybe you're trying it out and you're testing it, it's not working the way you want it to. That's understandable. I still I still test this stuff sometimes and realize I've made a silly mistake and have to go back and figure out what I did wrong. So you're not alone. If you do have any questions, we're in the bottom right-hand corner of the Precise FP website. That's myself and two other human being colleagues from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. So you let us know where you're getting stuck, what questions you have, or even if this whole video just sounded like French to you, and you don't speak French, I'm sorry, reach out and we can talk a lot more in depth on these. Thank you for your time. You have a great day.